In any confrontation, the person people fear most isn't the one with the biggest muscles or the loudest voice. It's the one who stays completely silent. That might sound unusual, but this realization changed everything for one legendary warrior. And it's about to do the same for you. Let me introduce you to Miyamoto Musashi, the most lethal samurai Japan ever produced. He never lost. Not once. Over 60 deadly battles. 60 encounters where losing meant certain death. But here's what's interesting: Musashi's advantage wasn't his speed or strength. It was something far more powerful. His level of mental control was so extraordinary that opponents would fall into panic before making a single move. While his enemies tore themselves apart with anxiety and rage, he remained eerily composed. And here's what's truly fascinating. Those same psychological techniques, forged in life-or-death combat, translate perfectly into the challenges we face today. Whether you're dealing with a domineering boss, managing a family conflict, or handling online provocation, the underlying truth stays the same: whoever controls their mind controls the outcome. Now, you're going to learn the 4 mental principles Musashi used to stay in complete control, even while everything around him crumbled. So let me ask you, when someone raises their voice at you or confronts you aggressively, what happens internally? Your body tenses up. Your heartbeat quickens. Anger begins to build. And before you realize it, you're swept up in a wave of emotion. That's the trap Musashi understood better than anyone else. He knew that the moment you let emotion consume you, you lose 2 vital things: control over the situation, and more importantly, control over yourself. That's why his first principle for navigating any conflict has nothing to do with force or technique. It's about something far more essential: emotional distance. So what exactly is emotional distance? It's the capacity to separate yourself from the emotion you're experiencing. To observe your internal reactions without letting them take over. Musashi described this as watching a conflict from above, like seeing a cloud move across the sky. He never became the anger or fear. He simply noticed them arise and let them drift by. That simple shift, not identifying with the feeling, completely transforms the dynamic. It sounds easy, but most of us fall into the same pattern every day. When someone insults you, what do you think? I'm angry. Or even, I am anger. You merge with it, and that emotion starts steering your words, your actions, your decisions. You end up as a puppet of your feelings. Musashi approached it differently. He recognized his anger, but didn't surrender to it. He'd say to himself, I am feeling angry right now. That small linguistic shift creates a gap between you and the emotion. And within that gap lies your freedom to choose. How can you start applying this today? Whenever strong emotions surface during any kind of disagreement, even a casual one, pause for a second and mentally note, I notice I'm feeling angry, or I notice frustration rising. Labeling the emotion like this builds a small space between you and it. Over time, that space grows, and so does your control. The point isn't to deny or suppress how you feel, but to avoid being ruled by it. When you create emotional distance in a tense moment, the storm inside begins to settle, and that's when genuine power emerges. Most people walk into disagreements without anticipating what's ahead. They react impulsively, defending themselves in the heat of the moment. Musashi did the exact opposite. He believed that in order to stay calm, you need to foresee what's coming before it arrives. This brings us to his second principle, anticipatory awareness. Musashi called this foreknowledge, the ability to perceive an opponent's move before they even make it. It's not mind reading. It's pattern recognition. Because as complex as we are, humans tend to react predictably under stress. Anger follows familiar channels. Fear restricts possibilities. Impatience exposes vulnerabilities. Before his duels, Musashi would study his adversaries. He observed how they moved, how they responded to pressure, which attacks they favored. He left nothing to chance. In his legendary duel against Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi knew his opponent was arrogant, impatient, and wielded an unusually long sword. So he arrived late deliberately, aggravating Kojiro's irritation, and carved a wooden sword on the way, longer than Kojiro's blade. He'd already won before the fight began, simply because he knew what to expect. How can you bring this into your life? Before walking into a tough conversation, pause for 30 seconds and ask yourself 3 questions. What emotional state is this person likely in? What outcome do they really want from this exchange? What are 3 possible ways they might respond? Answering these questions prepares your mind for what's ahead, reducing the shock of emotional surprise, which is what usually knocks us off balance. When you anticipate, your nervous system doesn't spiral into panic. It focuses, ready and clear. This is the same approach FBI hostage negotiators take. As a behavioral psychologist with 2 decades of crisis negotiation experience once noted, before any high-stakes talk, they evaluate the person's emotional profile, examine past behaviors, and identify potential dialogue paths. A Stanford researcher studying human behavioral patterns adds, when we anticipate someone's emotional responses, our brain prepares completely differently. Surprise triggers panic. Knowing what may come keeps us grounded. That's why these experts stay calm in explosive situations, while others fall apart. Anticipation isn't about manipulating others, it's about understanding the terrain before stepping onto it. The more you recognize emotional patterns, the less you'll be caught off guard, and the calmer you'll remain. And in a chaotic world, that kind of calm is one of the most powerful assets you can possess. Musashi understood that breath connects body and mind. He noticed that whenever his opponents became fearful or angry, the first thing to shift was their breathing, becoming fast, shallow, erratic. And that respiratory disturbance was always a precursor to mental instability. That brings us to his 3rd principle, strategic breathing. In combat, Musashi didn't just control his movements, he controlled every breath. He knew that whoever masters their breath masters their emotional state. This wasn't a minor detail, it was a weapon. During training, he'd execute strikes while maintaining deep, rhythmic breathing, because when the body breathes calmly, the mind stays clear, even amid chaos. And this isn't just ancient wisdom. Modern science backs it up. Controlled, slow breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the mechanism responsible for calming the body and restoring balance. As a neuroscientist with 15 years of research in behavioral neuroscience puts it, controlled breathing is literally a biological switch. You can shift from high alert to calm in seconds. Rapid breathing triggers fight or flight, flooding the brain with stress hormones that cloud judgment. Musashi developed a straightforward yet powerful technique. Before any decisive moment, he'd take 1 conscious breath. Inhale deeply through the nose for 4 counts. Hold briefly. Then exhale through the mouth for 6 counts. That single cycle aligned his body and mind, creating stillness within the storm. You can use this exact method today, in a tense meeting, during a heated argument, before delivering difficult news. Just 1 strategic breath, inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, pause, exhale through the mouth for 6. Even 1 cycle reduces tension and sharpens thinking. Repeat 2 or 3 times and notice the difference spreading through your body. Breathing like this is like pressing an internal reset button. It reminds you that no matter how chaotic the outside world becomes, you hold the power to cultivate inner peace. For Musashi, that peace was the foundation of victory. For us, it's the foundation of a clearer, more centered, and more powerful life. Now picture yourself in the middle of an intense conflict. Emotions are charged. Words are cutting. The air feels heavy. Most people react automatically, trying to win the argument, prove a point, hit back. But Musashi did things differently. He never fought to feed his ego. He fought with a defined objective. That's what makes the 4th principle so transformative, purposeful action. Musashi believed acting without a clear goal was like fighting blind. His opponents often entered duels fueled by anger, ego, or fear of defeat. Musashi operated with a singular focus. He knew exactly what he intended with every move, every choice. He wrote, "The warrior must not intend to attack first, but rather remain focused on his greater objective." This clarity is what prevented him from being swept away by emotional turbulence. And in modern confrontations, this clarity is even more essential. Think about how many arguments you've had that started with a legitimate issue but quickly devolved into accusations, old grievances, and unrelated pain. That happens when the original reason for the conversation gets forgotten. When purpose disappears, everything descends into confusion. The answer lies in a straightforward practice inspired by Musashi's philosophy. Before stepping into any conflict, a hard talk, a tense meeting, even a sensitive message, pause and ask yourself, what is my real goal here? Answer in one sentence. Something direct. Something clear. An emotional anchor. It could be, I want to resolve this misunderstanding without causing more pain. Or, I want to express my perspective without disrespecting anyone. Or simply, I want to protect my peace. When emotions start rising during the conversation, mentally repeat that purpose. It keeps you grounded. It prevents impulsive reactions. Your words and choices begin to serve your intention, not your bruised ego. But here's a surprising truth. Having a clear purpose doesn't make you cold or detached. In fact, it means your emotions now serve something larger, rather than working against you. This shift turns conflict into an opportunity for growth, not just destruction. Musashi understood this deeply. He wasn't calm because he lacked feeling. He was calm because he had clarity. And that clarity came from purpose. When you know what you're fighting for, you choose when to engage, and more importantly, when not to. True power isn't about winning every confrontation. It's about rising above them. Musashi discovered that centuries ago, that mastery in combat wasn't about defeating others, but about mastering the self. His 4 principles, emotional distance, anticipatory awareness, strategic breathing, and purposeful action, aren't just combat strategies. They're gateways to a more conscious, centered, and liberated existence. At the core, his teaching transcends swords, battles, or victories. It's a way of living, one rooted in not clinging to fleeting emotions, seeing clearly, and acting with intention. It echoes the Buddhist idea of non-identification with the ego, and the Taoist concept of wu-wei, effortless action flowing with life's natural rhythm. We live in a time full of conflict. Social media, traffic, politics, relationships. Everything seems designed to provoke an instant reaction. But the truly powerful person today isn't the loudest or most aggressive. It's the one who stays steady while everyone else loses composure. The one who chooses wisely where to invest their energy, and where silence is the most dignified response. As you begin integrating these principles, you'll notice something remarkable. Many conflicts simply dissolve because they only existed within you. By transforming yourself, you change the nature of the world around you. Like Musashi, you stop being someone who merely faces battles, and become someone who moves beyond them. This is the path. Not of force, but of inner strength. If what you've heard resonates, take a breath right now, and remember, true control doesn't come from aggression, it comes from awareness. Are you ready for this journey? Now I'll ask you again, when someone raises their voice at you or confronts you aggressively, what happens inside? Your muscles tighten. Your heart speeds up. Anger begins to stir. And before you know it, you're completely caught in the emotional storm. That's the trap Musashi saw so clearly. He realized that surrendering to the emotion of the moment makes you lose 2 essential things: control over the situation, and even more importantly, control over yourself. That's why his first principle for navigating any conflict isn't about strength or technique. It's about something deeper, emotional distance. But what does that actually mean? It's the ability to detach from what you're feeling. To observe your internal reactions without letting them consume you. Musashi described it as watching a confrontation from above, like a cloud passing through the sky. He didn't become anger or fear. He just noticed them arise and allowed them to pass. That simple act of not identifying with the emotion changes everything. It sounds easy, but most of us get caught in the same loop every day. When someone insults you, what's your internal response? I'm angry. Or even, I am anger. You merge with it, and that emotion begins dictating your words, actions, decisions. You become a puppet of your feelings. Musashi chose a different path. He recognized his anger, but refused to be overpowered by it. He'd tell himself, I'm experiencing anger right now. That small linguistic adjustment creates distance between you and the feeling. And within that distance lies your power to choose.